Welcome to the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. I'm your host, Jacob Cooper, best-selling author of Life After Breath and the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. For those of you who are new to my podcast, we welcome you here. For those of you who have been here before, we welcome you back. Please consider to support the channel by hitting that subscribe button as well as sharing your comments within the comments section. You could also follow the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder podcast with new episodes coming out on the audio syndicated version on mindbodyspirit.fm. Today's guest is a return special guest. Her name is Julie Ryan. Julie, you may know as the host of the Ask Julie show, and she's also an evidential medium, intuitive, and works as well as a medical intuitive as well, and has written several helpful and countless books. So without further ado, we bring on Julie Ryan on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Welcome to the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. This is our second visit here with Julie Ryan. You've reincarnated back here on the channel, and we are so blessed to have you. Julie, how have you been?
I'm terrific, thanks. It's always a delight to spend any time chatting with you. You're one of my faves, as you know, so thank you for having me back.
Oh my God, a big honor. I know last time you really were able to share your personal story where you had this transformation from working as this, high-end corporate executive to really ingratiating yourself in, healing and medical intuition and uh, the works with the angels. But for viewers who are listening to us for the first time, what was, a little bit of that impetus behind that shift? Because that's a very I mean, I guess some of those worlds could be, at odds or very different. Like, they're very different ladders, the corporate ladder and the spiritual ladder, so to speak. So how were you able to really have that shift? Was there something specifically that led to that, or there was a couple of different, experiences that really said, "Hey, you know what? I it's my time to be myself finally and just be free and unencumbered with my inner being."
Well, I'm a businesswoman and an inventor who learned how to do woo-woo, and I'm a buffet of psychicness. Now, woo in Taoism, remember, means source, and I love the
Oh,
word woo-woo because woo-woo is so much fun.
yeah.
So corporate world, yeah, but for companies that I owned, I founded 9 companies in 5 industries, and I'm an inventor of surgical devices sold throughout the world and former manufacturer of them. So, more than 30 years ago, I had a friend give me a book called Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mays,
Yeah,
and she called herself a medical intuitive, and I thought, "What the heck is that?" I was in the hospital supply business at that point for about 10 years. And I'd never heard that term before, and back then, Jacob, we didn't have the internet yet.
right.
So I went to a bookstore to see if there was more information that I could learn on it. Sure enough, I found a book called Hands of Light by the late Barbara Brennan,
Mhm,
who was a NASA physicist who parlayed very complex quantum physics concepts into
mhm,
understandable English and how we could use quantum physics to help facilitate healing.
hmm,
And she wrote it in understandable languaging for me because I am not a
mhm,
scientific person. And
mhm.
so I called her school which was on Long Island at the time, and I said, "Do you guys have anybody teaching this stuff in my area?" And they said, "Yes, we do. We have a graduate that just opened a school." And so I studied with her for 6 years. And it was
Wow.
so funny, Jacob, because I am not one of these woo-woo people that had dead people chasing me since childhood. I mean,
Mhm,
that just what would I have done with that had that been the case? I don't know.
mhm,
And when I started studying this stuff, my family and friends said, "Well, what are you gonna do with this?" I said, I don't know." I said,
mhm,
"Well, why are you doing this?" I said, "Again, I have no clue. It's just interesting."
mhm,
And now I look back and I can see that I was being led the whole time. So, the catalyst for me really to do something with my skills that everybody has. Everybody
mhm.
comes in with the skills. It's just a matter of developing and enhancing them. Everybody can throw a football. Doesn't mean you're gonna
Right.
be Tom Brady without a lot of practice and instruction, but
Yeah,
everybody can do it. We're all hardwired. It's just a matter of developing it.
yeah.
That's what I teach people all over the world now. So, there were a couple of catalysts that really caused me to pivot from just businesswoman, role model, mom, wife, friend, daughter, all that
Mhm.
other stuff too, into this spiritual space. Would you like for me to share those real fast?
I love every word that you have to say. So please do share it. But is it okay? Because I know, um, I don't know if you're familiar. Before we do, I don't know if you're familiar with Harry Potter at all.
Yeah,
But within Harry Potter, there's like the Muggles and
yeah, yeah,
people who have the gift, and a lot of times within intuition, people view it that way. It's like, well, if were you a descendant of someone with intuition or psychic abilities, and if not, then you don't have it. So what you experience for yourself, it's something that each person, intuition is something that is a
yeah.
gift that we all have. You don't necessarily have to have that biological lineage to have. Is that about right?
Yes, everybody comes in with the ability. We're all hardwired.
Yeah.
And it's just awakening that ability. All little children can see spirits and communicate with spirits.
Yeah.
And I've found about the age of 6 or 7, they start to shut down their abilities because the grown-ups in their life have said, "Oh, honey, that's just your
Mm,
imagination. That's not really true." And then they start to discount it and not trust it. But I have a series of children's books, 4 children's books called the Angel Messages series, and I happen to have one right here. This is Angel Messages for Dogs, and it's angels telling stories about, your dog is a spirit and your dog chose
mm,
your family and all of that, and I had so many parents and grandparents, Jacob, over the years say,
mm,
"How do I explain to my child that, yes, it's true what he knows about his great grandfather who died 40 years before he was born?" Or, and this kid can't read yet. Or, how is it that my child knows information from a past life and has very specific information that we can validate with historic
mm,
documentation online? And this kid can't read yet either.
mm,
And then my favorite is, how do we explain to little Susie, who's 3, that grandma's in heaven when Susie's saying, "No, she's not. She's asleep in that box in the front of the room, and they're at
mm.
the visitation hours at the funeral home." So that's what prompted me to write the Angel Messages books. But yes, we all have the ability. We all use it. We're just not aware of it.
Yeah. And I love that you were able to share, such powerful information because I do believe that information, influences beliefs and beliefs relate to how we engage with the world. And kids are very impressionable. They're not only sensitive energetically, but sensitive emotionally. And if they're fed with doubt, then that will bring more doubt. But with belief, that will expand. So you're giving so many gifts to this world by, really starting to change, early onset, which is, as malleable as it gets. But so thank you. And I know God created us because God loves stories, as Elie Wiesel said. And I know you have a lot of stories that we're going to get into, but there was one story that I know, and I'm sorry to abruptly shift things, but I really wanted to get into that story that we were getting into earlier because I think that needs to be heard as
Yeah.
a lot of other stories during this conversation will be.
One day I was with my mentor and she was doing a healing on me. And this was a couple of years after my mother had died. And that was the first time I'd ever been around anybody dying before. It was in
Mm,
2002. And
mm,
I felt like the Lady of Justice statue on the being balanced. On one side, my heart was breaking because my mother was dying very unexpectedly, and on
mm,
the other side, I was, watching all this glorious spiritual stuff with angels and
mm.
spirits of deceased loved ones and pets, and I was going, "Holy schmoly, this is amazing." And so, a few years after my mom died, I was with my mentor, and when she does a healing on me, Jacob, my deceased loved one's spirits line both sides of the table. Even my even my little dog, Katie, is on her hind legs, her little spirit and her little paws are on the side of the table,
Hmm,
and so, one day, this dead Pope spirit walked in, and I said, "Hello, who are you?" And he
mm,
said and my mentor Susan could see him too, and he said, "Well, I'm Clement," and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I've never heard of a Pope Clement." And he laughed and he said, "Well, I was number 6." I said,
mm,
"Okay, great. How may I help you?" Kinda like, "Why are you here?"
yeah,
And he said, "You're supposed to teach the world what happens when somebody dies, because everybody's so afraid, and it's been so bastardized over the millennia, and you know the truth." Because at that point, I had seen a similar situation that I'd seen when my own mother was dying with
mhm,
other family and friends, loved
mhm,
ones. And he said, "So this is you're just supposed to teach the world, what happens when
yeah,
somebody dies." And I laughed and I said, "Well, thank you so much, but I'm really not interested because you see, I'm a businesswoman and people will think I'm nuts."
yeah, yeah,
And he laughed and he said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything you've done in business has prepared you for this, and you just need to get on with it."
mm,
And I said
wow,
again, "Thank you so much. I'm really not interested." So he disappears. Few minutes later, I go to get in my car to go home, Jacob, and I just looked him up on my phone, Pope Clement the Sixth. Come to find out, this guy was in office during the Black Plague, when
mm.
two-thirds of Europe died, and he's best known for his prayers for the dying and his prayers for the dead. And I thought, "God, Ryan, you can't make that up. I never heard of the guy." And so,
Well,
that was really the thing that got me on the trajectory, and it took a few more years before I
yeah,
had the courage to say, "Okay, okay, okay." There were a couple of other things that happened. Do you want me to share those real fast, the other 2 catalysts?
absolutely,
Okay.
and, but I just have a question for people, interested, or some people I find have a hard time discerning, maybe their own thoughts or what the spirit realm, is nudging them. From your experience and, obviously hearing a lot more of these narratives, I think that would be helpful. But how does one discern maybe this is my own thought or maybe this is of the spirit realm nudging me and guiding me to another direction in my life?
Well, I find the nudges, they just keep coming.
Right.
It's like they
That
keep poking at you, and they keep coming. How you know that it's from spirit is it feels good or it feels neutral. If it feels like, "You better do this or you're gonna burn in hell for eternity," and blah, 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 no. All spirits are pure love. I mean, that's nonsense.
Mhm.
That's your brain. That's spirit
Yeah.
and brain. But every spirit this is what I teach in my classes, every spirit has a frequency,
Mhm.
Jacob, and that spirit keeps the frequency throughout all of their lifetimes, all of its
Mhm.
lifetimes. And so, in order to get in touch with any spirit, whether you know them or not is irrelevant, whether it's attached to a body or not is irrelevant. You just think of them. Who do you want to talk to? Or
Mm.
has there like big satellite dishes? You want to talk to Elvis? You want to talk to Moses? You want to talk to, you know,
Whoever.
Nefertiti? Whoever. You think of
It's
them. Grandma? You think of
hmm.
them. That tunes your satellite dish head to their frequency, and it opens up something similar to a two-way radio communication,
Mhm.
and then you just say something, either a question or a statement, and how you know that they're answering you is it's that first thing, fast as you can snap your fingers, that comes into your head,
Mhm.
and sometimes the answer comes before you've even finished thinking the thought. And that
Wow.
really trips people up, and I say, "No, you gotta remember, time doesn't exist in the spirit world, time's a human creation."
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
they've already got our thought, and they're responding back sometimes before we even
Mm.
finish thinking the thought, and like I said before, all spirits are pure love, so you're never gonna hear anything derogatory or demeaning or degrading
Right.
or abusive, like, nobody's gonna say, "Man, you're just ugly as sin and you drool."
Mm.
That's
Mm.
not gonna happen from spirit.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that distinction I think is very important for people, 'cause I get that question a lot, and I think if people are able to have that discernment, and we'll get into, a lot of the courses that people could take, that you offer
yeah,
within our conversation, but I really wanted to get into, when I was doing this before I was doing this interview, Spirit was saying, "Jacob, there's gonna be a lot of stories today." You know, there's gonna be a lot of stories, and that's really the bulk, and so spirit never leaves me wrong, so, I really you have a lot of stories to share, and I really
Yeah.
wanna hear, this next one because I know my viewers are gonna love each one of these.
Well, thank you. I think we remember stories. We're all hardwired for stories. I mean, my gosh, all the holy texts are stories, and
Yeah.
nursery rhymes are stories, and the classics are stories, and mythology, it's all stories. So, on my journey, Pope Clement kept showing up, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm really not interested, thank you." I'm at church one day. I'm sitting between my husband and my son, and the priest from the altar, Jacob, says, "Wouldn't it be nice if somebody could tell us if really we're greeted by angels and our deceased loved ones and escorted into heaven when we die?" And I'm getting elbowed from my son and my husband, and I'm thinking, "God, really? You're giving me grief about this from the pulpit on Sunday? Really?"
Right, right.
So I said, "All right, all right, all right, all right." So we put up askjulieryan.com, and I thought, "I'm gonna get pummeled. I mean, some business something's gonna happen, and I'm gonna lose business over this."
Mm,
But I said, "All right, I'll do it." Did that. A few months later, I was speaking at a business conference,
mm,
and it was primarily men, and it was C-suite executives.
yeah.
And at the end of my talk, Jacob, this guy comes up and he's got his iPad open to askjulieryan.com.
Oh god. The
And
cat's the cat's out of the bag.
"Oh, this is gonna be interesting." And he
Yeah,
said, "Is this you?" Well, my picture's on the front. And I said,
yeah,
"Yeah."
yeah,
Like, "Yes, it is." And inside I'm thinking, "Oh, here we go."
yeah.
And he said, "I wanna know more. Can we sit together at lunch?"
Mm,
And I said, "Well, sure." And on the inside, my brain's going, "Great, so I can get pummeled for an hour about
mm,
this woo-woo stuff."
mm,
We sat at a table of 8, Jacob, and I was the only woman, 7 guys and me. All they wanted to talk about was spiritual stuff.
wow.
Nothing about the conference, nothing
Mm,
about their businesses, nothing
yeah,
about the topic of my business talk. None of it. It was
mm,
all spirituality. And I
right.
thought, "Okay, God, I surrender. Let's go." And
Mm,
that was really the final catalyst for me to say, "Okay, I'm really, really being led to do this, and I'm getting validation that this isn't gonna affect my business in a negative way."
mm.
Fast forward, I sold a couple of companies shortly thereafter and then just dove in with both feet, and I've been doing it for 8 years now.
Wow, 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 that's a big leap of faith, and
Yeah,
I'm wondering for you, like, what did that maybe teach you about preconceived, viewpoints about, people in the corporate world or men and, people's interest in
yeah.
spirituality?
It's way deeper than we give people credit for, I believe, and I believe that the zeitgeist is shifting more towards spirituality. People know that there's more to the equation than meets the eye, and those that have been afraid of spirituality are frankly dying off.
Mhm. Yeah,
My parents, I mean, I could be your mother, but my parents and my parents were born in the 1920s, and my grandparents were born, like, turn of the century,
right.
1900, 1902, and not that they weren't spiritual, they were, but it was more in a religious
Yeah.
frame of reference and more, here's what the religion tells you to do, and here's why you do it. You don't question it, you just do it because in order to be a Catholic or a Baptist or a Jew or whatever,
Mhm,
these are the rules and
mhm.
this is what you do. And if you go outside of the box of those rules, then you're castigated
Yeah.
from the tribe.
Mhm,
And people that are my age and even the generation before me, the women's libbers, we really are the ones who've changed a lot of that thinking, and now I find that the younger people like you and even people who are younger, they're not inundated with all this fire and brimstone and fear stuff
mhm.
like my
Yeah,
parents and grandparents were.
yeah. I think I think, people in the field need to understand all those that came before you and took, A lot for you to get into this more of a comfortable position. For instance, in my talks, I credit, obviously Raymond Moody, but like people like Shirley MacLaine,
Oh, yeah.
out on a limb. She was this big Hollywood actress and, came out publicly talking about her experiences with OBEs and extraterrestrials and
I saw her on
Peru. And
Oprah for the first
uh,
time. I was going, "What?" And I couldn't get her book fast enough.
that took a lot of chutzpah. That took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
She's
And
someone
for
who's not.
Oprah to put it on too.
Yeah, and, I'm proud to share a birthday with her, April 24th, Tauruses, but, yeah, she's
I'm a
someone who
Taurus
made.
too.
Oh, here we go,
Yeah.
bringing we're the most grounded people, we bring a lot of this stuff, down to earth, so that's cool, I didn't know that about you, wow, that's cool,
Yeah.
Taurus energy, no wonder why we vibe, right? But, I know you mentioned that you had this vision or this download that a big part of your life's work is to, I would say, destigmatize death or to really
Yeah.
reframe, people's, viewpoints of death. And for, people listening, like, where do you feel people are misled or misinterpreting the concept of death from your, direct experiences? And how could that be shifted perhaps on their own journeys?
We've become very afraid of death in the Western world. In the past, I would say 100 years or
Yeah.
so, and it's as our medical system has become more sophisticated and more people go to the hospital at the end of life,
Mhm,
and the medical providers are doing everything they can to keep the person alive. It's become way less family centered in that most people used to die in their homes, and even the wakes and the visitation hours and even funerals were held in people's homes.
mhm,
Well, now in our society, somebody hears, "Oh, well, so and so died in that house. I'm not buying that house because it's probably got like some weird juju in it." That's nonsense. Everybody has been through that since the beginning of time. So I believe that in the Western cultures, especially, we've been taught that there's a sense of fear there that we don't know what's going to happen. Whereas in the other cultures, and in all of our cultures that go into the goulash that makes the Western culture, um, all of our ancestors, they weren't afraid of death. And that's why Pope Clement came in to me and he said, "People are so afraid." So there's lots of information, as you know, about near death experiences. There's lots of information about grieving, how to grieve, the different
mhm,
phases of grief, all of that. There's lots of information about the afterlife
mhm,
and spirit communication, but not much about what actually is happening as we're transitioning. And that's what people are afraid of.
mhm.
My parish priest said several years ago, he said, "People are afraid when they die, they don't know if they're gonna fly or they're gonna fry."
That's a nice line, yeah,
Yeah. I told him
um,
I was gonna steal it, he goes, "By all means." But it's really true because of, so much, in our culture, in the literature, in the movies, we watch scary things, like in
mhm,
Ghost, we watched, the spirits of death, Harry Potter, the Dementors.
mhm,
Right?
yeah,
We see all these things and it's all spirits are pure love,
mhm,
but people they wanna feel emotion, and I think that's why we have the thriller genre and
mhm,
the the different suspenseful books and movies and things because people are getting scared out of their wits, and it makes them feel something different from their regular lives, even though they don't want that to happen. I was
yeah,
talking to an author one time, and she just did these crime books that were,
mhm.
like, gory and lots of murders and lots of blood, lots of bleh, and
Mhm.
I said, "Is your husband kind of afraid to sleep with you at night?" He said,
Wow.
"He's brought it up before when he reads my books, and he's thinking, 'Where do you come up with this stuff?'"
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you mention a lot of these Hollywood. I've got a lot of colleagues and friends of mine who were producing some of these shows or movies about, the afterlife or ghosts, and a lot of them had to turn down opportunities because it was unethical to what they knew as a medium. They wanted it to be sensationalized. They wanted fear to be a basis of what the afterlife is about. And they said, "You can't throw any dollar at me. I'm not going to cause, damage to people." And what they view of the afterlife is, and to make it fear based, so it sells more, but consciousness as a result is lower. And so I respect people who are mediums and are consults who have ethics and standards, for and discernment for these particular things. Um, there's a saying like, "What's death got to do with it?" But my question is learning about what happens when when the body goes or dies. How has that changed your life, or how could that rather also broaden to change other lives, knowing that heaven isn't what we think it is, and stuff like that? How could that help us in the here now, so to speak? Why is that an important subject to really, entertain?
Well, where everybody goes to heaven. There was a movie in the 1980s called All Dogs Go to Heaven. Well, all people go to heaven too. And that
Mm,
is a big leap for those of us in the Western world because we've all been taught that you better do it this way or you're going to go burn in an
mhm,
eternal pit
mm,
and suffer till the end of time. That never happens.
mhm,
And so people say to me, well, what about a Hitler or somebody who's really evil? I'll say,
mm,
that's a role they were playing in that lifetime.
mm,
What I've heard a bazillion times from spirit is there's no right or wrong. It's just an experience as
mhm,
far as the spirit perception of it. It's in the Book of Miracles, it's in all the holy texts. But we need to have that right or wrong, that good or bad in the human from the human
mhm,
perspective because it helps us create. When we know what we don't want, it helps us create what we do want. So if I the maternal spirit is always around the person and running the show from the spirit world when somebody's dying.
mhm,
And I've had people say to me, "Oh, God, my mother's the last person I want around me when I'm dying. She was just the ultimate bitch from hell." And I'll say, "That was a role she was playing. Her
mm,
spirit is pure love, and when you greet her in heaven, you can say, 'Mom, here's an Academy Award because you played that part really well. You were awful.'"
right.
Yeah.
She's a really good method actor or actress.
Exactly, and there's
Uh,
so many clients of mine and others that have called into my show, Jacob, that tell me
mhm,
that they have an amazing relationship with their loved one in spirit that they
mm,
didn't have when they were alive. So, by knowing what happens to answer your question, I kinda went down a rabbit hole there. To answer your question, how does it affect my life knowing that I'm gonna be surrounded by angels and the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets and escorted to heaven by angels? In my regular human existence, I'm like, "Bring it on. What's the worst thing
mm,
that can happen to me? Really?
mm,
I'm gonna be escorted to heaven by angels, and all my loved ones are not only gonna be with me as I'm dying here, but they're all gonna be there with me when I cross the pearly gates. It's really funny and so fun whenever I have the opportunity to do this, which is such an honor and privilege when
mhm,
I'm working with somebody who's at the end of their lives. Heaven look, the pearly gates look like this big, white, yellowish plasma wall to me, Jacob.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
when you go through it, there's no trays. I pictured the pearly gates looking like some big ancient stone wall and
Mm,
St. Peter out front with his
mhm,
clipboard going, "Okay, yeah, you're allowed in. No, you gotta go burn for eternity,"
yeah,
kinda thing. That's not what
right.
happened.
Mm,
Everybody goes through, and when we go through, there's this cheer that goes up, and
mm.
it sounds like 100,000 people in a football stadium and somebody's just scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's just this roar that goes up,
Wow.
and everybody's so thrilled to
Wow.
see the person who's transitioned, and everybody goes through that.
It's like a Buckeye home game, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
When they're doing well, yeah, with,
Jacob knows I'm a graduate of the Ohio State
with with
University.
with my guy, Julian Sayin over there, yeah.
Right.
Uh, but, yeah, I have I hear a lot of people who have NDEs or experiences on the other side, and what I gather is there's a uniformity to their experience and their description of God or of spirit, and that word is usually love, but there's also subjective experiences. Could you maybe elaborate regarding heaven? Is it a place where it's uniformal or is it nuanced and catered to each individual's each individual person and the lives that they live? Is there different layers to it, or just kind of stratospheres of heaven, if you will?
I heard yes, yes, yes.
Mm,
I get divine downloads while we're talking. So I heard, yes, are there different levels? Yes. Are they accessible to everyone? Yes.
mhm.
Are they nuanced? Yes. Are the experiences nuanced? Yes. What was your other question?
Yeah. So
Is it
I
are there
think
commonalities? Yes.
you've answered that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say someone had a really difficult life and it wasn't their fault. I mean, someone, for instance, they were, I don't know, in Auschwitz in the Holocaust. There wasn't, so their life wasn't, it wasn't their fault. They just had a lot of tragedy. Do people carry over that, or that melts away when they come to heaven?
All spirits are pure love, as I
Mhm,
mentioned before. When I do past life work, what I learned early on when I started studying woo woo, I'm
mhm,
calling it, back more than 30 years ago, what I learned was once you connect with spirit, you can do it all. And
mhm,
and our spiritual space in this day and age seems to be siloed like medicine. You know, you got the neurologists and the cardiologists and the gynecologists
mhm.
and all that. You got the pet psychics and the regular psychics and the
Right,
mediums and the medical intuitives and it's all the same thing. You connect with
right.
spirit, it's all the same thing. So
Mhm,
that's why I came up with I'm a buffet of psychicness because connect with spirit, you can do it all.
mhm.
When I work with somebody on past lives, which are so much fun, because
Oh, yeah.
we get information that we can validate
Mhm,
with historical documentation, I will see a semblance of a script, very basic script that will be present in multiple lifetimes consecutively,
mhm,
like, you wanna be a teacher. Well, there are a bazillion ways to be a teacher. You can teach in a school. You know, what age kids are you gonna teach? Are you a parent as a teacher? Are you a corporate teacher? Are
mhm,
you a therapist teacher like you? We all teach, and we're exploring it from different perspective, different place, different time, different set of circumstances, different
mhm,
gender a lot of the times. Same basic premise of a script. And the analogy that I like to use for this, Jacob, and I talk in analogies a lot because it
mm,
gives us a human frame of reference for all this
mhm.
spiritual stuff.
That's your Taurus side that likes to ground these things to
Is that
layman's
right?
terms, right? Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, it makes things palatable, I love it.
Yeah. Well, my analogy for this is think of Hamlet. How many
Mm,
times has Hamlet been performed since Shakespeare wrote it in 1602?
mm,
Who knows? But
right,
you think about where was it performed, when, by whom, in what language, what was happening in the world, what was the interpretation? Was the performance inside, outside? Who were the actors? Who was the director? Who was the costumer? Who
mhm,
was the set designer? All different perspectives of the same script,
mm,
all different experiences each time it's performed.
right,
And so that's how I see our lifetimes, that our spirit expands.
mhm,
Maybe somebody was murdered in a life, and then they come back and they murder somebody in a
mhm,
subsequent life. And
mhm,
we think, why would they do that? Well, because it helps them understand what was the murderer thinking?
mhm,
What are the parameters that need to be in place? What are those variables that need to be in place for somebody to murder another person? And
hmm,
it expands our spirit, keeping in mind in the spirit world, I've heard a bazillion times, there's no right or wrong, no good or bad, it's just an experience.
hmm. It seems like, the spirit realm wants, or not wants, but intends for us to grow, is to develop more of a degree of empathy and understanding. Would you say that's,
Absolutely.
right, and living from this we consciousness versus me consciousness, right?
Well, and it's all about love. And the original Greek word and Aramaic word for sin is confusion. It's like a
Mhm,
confusion thing. You're not in love, you're acting out of a confusion. So you're not in alignment with love.
Mhm.
And what you do is you realize that, and then you get back into alignment with love.
Mm. That's a beautiful pivot, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I know for you, obviously do a lot of medical intuitive work, which is profound, but, you're also, correct me if I'm wrong, a medium too, who
Yeah.
connects with loved ones. My question as a medium, for someone who I guess is a secretary to the dead or, an intermediary, what are some of the biggest takeaways that you've gotten from spirits and what they're trying to tell us just in terms of life on earth or how to live? Have you gotten a lot of consistent messaging across the board from spirits as you deliver these, love letters to their loved ones in your role as a medium?
Have fun, lighten up, it's not that serious.
Mm,
And they want us to live a life of joy, and they wanna help us do that. And we are so serious, and we overanalyze the crap out of everything
mm,
as humans, and it's not necessary. So when I'm especially the first time that I'm communicating with a loved one who's passed and the family is in deep grief, and oftentimes there'll be multiple family
mhm,
members on the phone or the Zoom with me, and they'll expect some, and you know this, they'll expect
mhm,
some profound, earth-shattering, life-changing
mm.
piece of advice. And grandma's going, "Check your peanut butter." And everybody's going, "Check our peanut butter? What?" And grandma says, "Yeah, you need to throw out your peanut butter." And the family's looking at me like, "Really?" And I said, "Just go check the peanut butter, and they'll see that it's expired." And
Mm,
so grandma's spirit's doing that, number 1, because it's not healthy for them to eat expired peanut butter because there might
yeah,
be some bugs growing in it, number 1. But number 2, it's funny. And I find that they come in with humor a lot. They'll come in with something that's totally off the wall,
right,
like, "Change your filters in your furnace," or
right. It
yeah, you
it could
know.
be very mundane.
Yeah, they're
Um
endless. The stories are endless.
Something that happened to me intuitively that just happened to me this day was I was, with Mark at a conference and he was, giving readings. And one of the messages was to the person was to, you need to, the loved one was coming through and is like, you need to stop more thoroughly on your stop signs. And for me, the last couple of days that came along, and then lo and behold, this morning I just got a ticket for not stopping
Oh,
enough.
no.
And so, it'll be okay. We got Long Island lawyers. We'll fight it. Don't worry. But sometimes our loved ones I do believe they want to show that they're here, connected to things, but also to not bypass the details, not to think that you're immunized from all these things, and they want to look out for us to reduce some of the wear and tear and difficulties, that would come from bypassing these things, right?
I heard a really sweet one recently. The My client and her mom were on the phone, and she was gonna get married in a couple of weeks or something, and she was really missing her grandmother. And grandma said, "Well, use one of my lace doilies and wrap it around the handle of your bouquet, and then it'll be like I'm holding your hand while you're walking down the aisle." And we were all like,
Mm,
"Oh my god," just in tears with that. And my client, Jacob, goes, "What's a doily?" And I said, "It's a lace round, piece
mm,
of lace." And her mom said, We have plenty of those. I know exactly what she's talking about." So they sent me a picture of
mm,
her bouquet with
um,
grandma's piece of lace that had her energy on it. It was in her
wow.
living room, and back in the day, they used to put a lamp or something else just to kinda dress up a table. Oftentimes, during the Depression, the table maybe didn't look that great, it was scratched or not in the best shape, and so they'd cover it up with a piece of lace or a piece
Mm,
of fabric, and
mm,
we thought that was really sweet. I mean, I just have endless, endless stories. There
yeah,
was one recently where a woman called into my show on Thursday night. We do, Ask Julie
yeah.
Ryan every Thursday night at 8. People call in from all over the world, and it's a blast because I never know who's calling. I never know what their question is gonna be. And she, wanted to know if her cat had a message for her, and I said, "This cat's showing me as a black cat, and it's jumping out of these snowdrifts." It was right after we'd had that big snow,
Hmm.
like a rocket straight out of the snowdrift and then jumping into other ones and then coming back out really fast. And she said, "Yeah, my cat was a totally black cat,
Right.
and my cat loved to do that because we live in Northern Canada and we get massive amounts of snow."
Wow.
And
Wow.
those are
Mhm.
just very simple examples, but I always say, "I can't make that stuff up. I never
Yeah.
talked to this woman before. I didn't know she had a cat, let alone what it looked like or what it
Mhm.
did." And
Wow.
so spirits I find that spirits always gonna let us know that it's really them with whom we're communicating. Do you
Mhm.
find the same thing?
Absolutely, they're trying to get, a degree of validation to the loved ones that go without a shadow of a doubt, or as Suzanne Giesemann says, NOEs, no other explanation.
Yeah.
None of the stuff is Googleable or able, and very few people even in that family know, this kind of stuff. So that gives a lot of evidential information to know that they're still here, they're still right here, and they're not only still right here, but they're in our lives and they're aware of what we're going on. We're not alone on this journey and we're still connected, just in a different way, but in a more expansive way, if you will,
Right.
in many ways. Yeah, wow, that's really cool. Now I know I have your book here, one of your books. You pop these things out like candy, but this angel messages for your life's journey that I got, which is filled with beautiful stories. And these for were from other people. Is there like I know my people on my platform love my stories, and you could get Julie's books and all thing. Is it askjulieryan.com? Am I getting that
Mhm.
right? All
Yeah,
things
they're on
ask
Amazon and
on
anywhere books
Amazon.
are sold. Yeah.
So but is there, a particular angel story that has been that's came up to you recently or something you've heard that just, like, you're like, "How could anyone possibly deny the existence of angels?" After hearing that?
Oh gosh. That was volume 2, the one that you showed. It's called
Yes,
Angel
yes.
Messages for Your Life's
Volume
Journey, and
2.
those are all true stories from graduates of my angelic attendant training, the whole buffet of psychicness training, and they're serendipitous things, angelic stories, miraculous stories, stories that people just couldn't make up. The one that's coming to mind is from a woman and she has one of those cameras. She's got cameras all over her house
Mhm,
that are showing outside, and she asked Saint Michael she prayed to Saint Michael, and she had something going on that she was
mhm,
asking for extra protection, and then that night, she saw this she was in bed, but she saw this brilliant light in her backyard through the drapes. I mean, that she
mm,
was laying in bed and she could see something lit up.
yeah,
And just she looked outside and there wasn't anything there. So she went back and she looked at the tape the next morning and it was the shape of a sword made out of light that
wow,
came from the sky and came into her backyard and
mm,
landed in her backyard. And it was a sword like a Roman sword that a Roman how Saint
mhm,
Michael, the archangel, is
yeah,
depicted with a sword and a shield, and
wow.
it looked like that, and it's in the book. The picture's
The
in the book.
pictures in the book, oh my
Yeah,
god, I got
yeah.
goosebumps everywhere.
Oh,
Wow,
right.
wow, oh my
Lots of
god.
stories about how another one that comes to mind is a woman was with her 2 small sons. They lived in Chicago, and they were visiting Paris, and they were heading someplace on their tube, on their subway system, and she got a bad feeling about being they were in the last car, and it was just them and one other man, and she got a bad feeling about it, and she thought, "Oh, it's just my imagination," and then it just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and so she went to a she took the boys and she went to a car that was more populated, and sure enough, it came out, I believe, that that man attacked another passenger that got on at another stop, and
Mhm,
she believes that was her guardian angel telling
mm,
her to move.
mm,
And she said it was a hassle because the boys were asleep, she had to wake them up and all of
mm,
that, but she said it was so strong, and she believed that that was her guardian angel.
Wow.
It's full of stories. I mean, my god, people are lost and they find a another favorite one, this woman was lost and she was trying to find I think this was before GPS, and she was trying to find her way, and she came upon a street, and the street name was the name of her son in spirit who had passed, and it was kinda like, "Mom, follow this street," and she did, and she found her way back to wherever it was she was going or the highway. I mean, just endless stories.
Mm,
And a lot of them are very simple, Jacob, as you know,
mm,
from working with so many clients, and people will say, "Eh, that's just a coincidence." No, it's not. You
yeah,
know it's not a
yeah,
coincidence, and most of the stories in those books, if not all of them, are, "There's no way. There's
yeah.
no way."
I've done a lot. I've worked with and I've read books by people who are in the parapsychology department and research field, and they try to study the probability or the mathematical probability out of a lot of these occurrences happening, how they happen. It's like point zero zero. It's just like
Yeah,
the mathematical probability of these things are just like non-existent. And
right.
so, I guess it's kind of like a courtroom and you're building evidence and each person has to discern what passes as evidential and what is not. We always have free will. There's always subjectivity. But for people who like, let's say, are not, they're not feeling like they're getting signs or symbols or stuff like that. I mean, some people seem to be magnets for that. Like, why are some people like magnets for signs and symbols, and some people have a hard time, experiencing these things?
Because their vibrational levels on the I feel crappy channels.
Mm,
That's what I say. Spirit communication's really a high vibe,
yeah.
and when we feel like, "Oh, I'm not getting any signs, they're not around me, blah, blah, blah," you're in the, complaining, mooing, feeling fear channel.
Woe is me. Yeah.
And it's like our back to the concept that our heads are big satellite dishes and they receive and they transmit
Mhm,
frequencies. Spirit's always transmitting stuff to us. When we receive those signals is when we're tuned to that frequency. It's similar to if you have satellite TV,
mhm.
they're
Yeah.
broadcasting hundreds, if not thousands of shows simultaneously, but the show you're gonna watch is gonna be the one that you tune into. Does
Mhm.
that mean that those other shows aren't being broadcast? Absolutely not. They are. You're just not tuned into that frequency, and that's what I teach people
Oh,
how to do. One other angel story that is, I think, really interesting is in my book, Angelic Attendants. What
yeah.
happens as
I
we
have that too. That's a beautiful
transition.
book. Yeah.
Anybody that wants a free copy, just go to julieryangift.com, we'll send you one. Um, but in the phases of transition, which is how we're all surrounded by spirits of deceased loved ones and pets and angels, uh, I talk about the 12 phases of transition that everybody goes through.
Mm,
And around phase 6, there are additional angels that show up. The spirit exits the body, and it looks like a cartoon speech bubble held on to the top of the head. And around phase 6, Jacob, there are extra angels that show up, and they're on either side of this, what I call spirit bubble. There are lots of other angels that are surrounding the person who's dying, but these
mhm.
are 2 additional angels that show up
Yeah.
halfway through the phases. And about phase 9, after phase 9, their wings start to move,
Mm,
and it reminds me of this giant owl, silent, rhythmic,
mm,
smooth, and it's creating a drag.
mm.
And the first time I saw that was when my mother was dying, and I
Wow.
thought, "This is gonna be interesting. I don't know what's gonna happen, but this is an integral part of her
Mhm.
spirit separating from her body."
Right.
And so the longer they did that, what I found was that movement of the wings created a vortex
Mhm.
above my mother's head and everybody's head when they're dying. And it has an upward pull. It feels like driving through the car wash and they turn
Mhm.
the dryer on at the end and it's sucking all
Yeah.
the water off your car.
Yeah.
So when I was writing Angelic Attendants, I thought, I'm just going to research owl wings vortex. Come to
Mm.
find out, there's this phenomenon called the wingtip vortex.
Mm.
That is an aeronautical engineering phenomenon that is how the air goes over and under the wing, and it creates a vortex underneath the
Wow.
wing of anything that flies, and it creates lift.
Hmm.
So every jet, every plane, every bug, every bird, every kite, anything that flies, every paper airplane
Mhm.
causes lift.
Hmm.
And I thought, "All right, this is an angel phenomenon that I can see, I can hear, I can feel
Mm.
that's causing something that's mimicking an aeronautical engineering phenomenon in our current human world, and it causes lift, and that's what helps separate the body and the spirit from the body, and then those angels escort that spirit to heaven.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a remarkable angel story that happens every time somebody dies, regardless of if they die instantly, like in a
Mhm.
case of a homicide or suicide,
Mhm.
or whether they die over a prolonged period of time,
Mhm.
days, weeks, months, even years.
There's
Everybody
this,
goes through
yeah,
the 12 phases of transition.
kinda like this vacuum vortex, you like, and that's what I kinda had in my near-death experience with this vortex energy. There just was nothing you could do about it. It was like sucking you in,
Yeah,
to higher realms, and you would vibrate really high. So, yeah, that's really cool how,
yeah.
the spirit realm, or our world rather, mimics the spirit realm in many ways, or maybe the spirit realm is working with our realm in some ways too, I would say.
Well, if you look up wingtip vortex online, there are thousands, if not tens or more thousands of articles, illustrations, books. Every pilot knows about the wingtip vortex. I'd never heard of it before.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out, and I encourage, my listeners to do as well. Now, I mean, you've come a long way from being a little bit reserved in that board meeting to having that lunch, and now you've written, how many books have you published right now?
Hey,
8 books. Okay, wow. That's a lot. You've done a lot in what's probably felt like a long time, but a short amount of time. But you're also a big educator. Talk to the viewers a little bit about some of your courses coming up, and maybe what could be in store for people's different levels of consciousness or understanding or practices within, as you said, the buffet of courses, that are your offerings.
sure. Thank you. I have online courses that are self-paced, that are a couple of hours worth of videos that you watch, but the key is there are online practice groups that are live,
Uh-huh.
and they are facilitated by graduates of my big angelic attendant training that I hold in person twice a year,
Mm-hmm.
one online and one in Atlanta in a hotel,
Yeah.
and the key is it's 10% technique. My courses are 90% transfer of energy from me to my students.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hold my vibration really high, and they're going to resonate with that vibration. And once they do over a prolonged period of time, it's permanent. So they don't need me to do all
Mm-hmm.
of this. So we have called Angels and Enlightenment training that's self paced, and that's how to communicate with spirit, the 12 phases of transition, those kinds of things, because all of us are gonna lose a loved one. All of us
Mm-hmm.
are gonna have a loved one pass. Heck, we're gonna be there ourselves one day. And it's really helpful to know what's going on and not be afraid of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
the emails I get from people in the I think we've got 600 reviews just on Amazon of people saying, "Oh my god, this helped me so much
Mhm.
in, um, in helping my dad pass or my loved one,
Mhm.
whomever." And again, there's university-based research that validates that 90% of people see the spirits of deceased loved ones and pets
Mhm.
as they're transitioning.
Yeah.
90%, Jacob,
Wow,
you
wow,
know,
that's
so
a big number,
that's
yeah.
a big number. Yeah, I love it when science catches up with woo-woo because woo-woo's been around a whole lot longer.
Then
So we've got
science, yeah.
we've got that's self-paced online. We have medical intuition training, I call it MIT,
Mhm.
and it's all medical stuff. It's how to communicate with spirit, how to scan somebody, how to help facilitate energetic healings. Again, that's a couple of hours of videos and then an online live practice group,
Mhm. Right.
and so there, and then twice a year, I teach my angelic attendant training, which is a whole weekend, and
Mm.
that's the whole buffet of psychicness, and that comes with practice groups also.
Well,
And I find that, like anything, you can read a book, you can go
mhm,
to a conference, you can watch some videos, but until you're doing it with some regularity, you don't really get it. And
mm,
the practice groups are the key to being able to get validation for the information that you're receiving. Everybody can do this. Everybody
mhm,
does it pretty much in the first hour
yeah,
that they try, and so it's easy. There's no reason to complicate it. It's
yeah,
super easy. It's just remembering what you didn't know you forgot.
mhm,
And so once we get validation and we get it multiple times, then we start to think, "Okay, well, maybe I really can do this." And then the more validation you get, the more you trust it, the more you trust it, then it's just second
yeah.
nature. So it's the old, you can feed somebody a fish or you can teach them to fish. I'm teaching a lot of people how to fish.
And there's something for everybody, in
Exactly.
your courses, and there's different levels, different rungs. But I think the main thing is like this stuff, could be taught. You could practice this, and through
Yeah.
more practice, like anything else, you could elevate your abilities and your connection. I think that's beautiful to know. I think to get almost really good at anything, it requires usually like a certain amount of hours of practice.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
lay new
okay.
neural pathways, and then
Yeah,
it becomes muscle memory. It's
yeah,
like shooting a basketball.
yeah.
The first few times you don't do it, the more you do it, then it's just second nature. You just don't even think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful because I know a lot of people might feel a little bit left out, you know, in this stuff, but it seems from what you're doing and to continue the sports thing is like spirituality is a participation sport and everyone has the
Exactly.
ability.
Yeah.
You didn't come to a restaurant to lick the menu, you came to eat the food, as I say. So, I love the buffet that you're offering to people. There's a
Yeah.
lot of you don't have to lick the menu, so good stuff. Julie, where's the best place for people to get in touch with you for questions, events? I don't know if there's, private sessions available, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but where's the best place for people to get in touch with you, at this time?
AskJulieRyan.com.
Ask
Everything's
Julie.
an Ask Julie Ryan. All the social media channels, the YouTube channel, we do live stream YouTube every Thursday night. We release interviews, and we have availability from free, several things that are free. You can call it in the show, you can submit a question online, those are free. I'm developing a phone app that people can use
Well,
to submit questions. So it goes from free to a little bit of a fee to I have 6 graduates that work with me that do client appointments, and they're all fabulous. They're all graduates of my big angelic attendant training class, and then I do private appointments as well. So we've got something for everybody from free to individual time if somebody
well,
wants that.
you're giving so much, and I hope that, you feel that you're receiving a lot and you're loved by so many around the globe and making such a difference. I hopefully you're able to feel that as well too.
Thank you. Anybody that wants a free copy of angelic attendance, and we've got the diagrams in there of how the angels and everybody's position, just go to julieryangift.com or you can find it on my regular website.
Julie, you're a gift to all of us.
Yeah.
You're welcome back anytime, and thank you so much for sharing your beautiful journey, your stories, insight from the spirit realm. And I do encourage, all of my listeners to check out all things Julie Ryan. There's something for everyone, and it's such a wide net of offerings that you have, and you're a powerhouse, my friend. So I'm blessed to know you, and we're blessed to have you here.
Oh, thank you. The honor is all mine.
Well, that was a wonderful interview. I enjoyed every moment again with Julie. I learned so much about her journey and her ability to tune into spirit, and you can too. And so I hope you're able to really tune into your own higher selves, your guides, and just simply ask. And that's how we could get messages, just tuning in and asking and be open to guidance to be part of our everyday life. Thank you for tuning in. It was a joy to have Julie here. We hope to see you back here on our next episode on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder.